Hello. Today I would like to try something a little bit different. It's a slower flow version of what I normally do, so I won't be focusing so much on the chakra energy as I normally do, and instead I will be just moving the spine and shoulders and hips a little bit. So let's begin in Thunderbolt pose, which is just on your knees and your hips are dropped back on your heels, and you can rest your hands comfortably on your thighs. Keep a straight spine, and if you're comfortable with it, you can close your eyes. And just take a few deep breaths here so that we can ground into our bodies and our practice for today. As you're breathing in, fill your entire lungs with air all the way to the bottom. Expanding your chest so that your lungs have room, and exhaling everything. Taking a few extra seconds to push the extra air out. Okay, and when you're ready, let's meet on all fours. We will begin with a little bit of cat-cow, which cat is with your belly dropped towards the floor and your tailbone up towards the sky and your chin facing forward. And cow is with your tailbone tucked and your chin tucked towards your chest and your spine reaching up towards the sky. Lift your chin up, your tailbone up into the air, dropping your belly. We'll go for a deep stretch, cow stretch here. Open your chest towards the front of your mat, all while pulling your tailbone upward. And on your next exhale, tuck your tailbone underneath and your chin towards your chest, pushing your spine up towards the sky. Rounding out your shoulders and really stretching the space between your shoulder blades. Take a few deep breaths here. Actively pushing up into the ceiling. And release. Again into cow pose. And then into cat pose. And keep moving between these two poses at your own pace. It's often matched with the exhalation as you're tucking downward into cat pose, and an inhalation as you're opening up to cow pose. You can begin rocking backwards and forwards as you do this to get some movement. Or maybe you can start wagging your tail, making big circles with your hips. Just start playing with your spine and exploring all the different curves that it can make. When you're ready, come to a neutral spine and take some deep breaths. Open your knees a little bit wider, maybe to the width of your mat, and sink your hips back to the heels of your feet and drop your forehead to the mat for a child's pose. You can keep your arms extended in front of you. I like to do this to get a nice stretch on my back. You can also tuck them down so that the tops of your hands are on the ground and your hands are more by your feet. Take a few deep breaths. And when you're ready, let's come back to all fours. Tuck your toes underneath and push the backs of your knees up and back so that your legs straighten, and we'll come back into downward facing dog. Play with this a little bit and find what's comfortable for you. The priority is that you have a straight spine and you're really creating length and space in your spine. You can pedal your feet back and forth a little bit. Maybe you need to adjust your hands, bring them a little closer or farther away. When you feel settled, lift your hips up towards the ceiling and open your chest towards the floor. Now checking your arms, you want your triceps to be facing the ground and your hands firmly planted in the ground. This is a very active posture that creates space in our chest, between our shoulder blades, all along our spine, and the backs of our legs. Take a deep breath. And now move your shoulders up like you were in cat pose and move them up towards your wrists like you're a wave crashing forward. And once you get over your wrist, drop your hips down and lift your chin up. Then you can flip your feet so that the tops of your feet are completely on the ground. And you can either stay in up dog, as I am with my thighs off the ground, or you can drop them and come down slowly onto your elbows for cobra, pushing your chest forward in either posture that you choose. Take a few deep breaths. Bring your shoulder blades back towards each other and down your spine. Now bring your right hand underneath your right shoulder, and same with your left hand under your left shoulder. Tuck your toes and then push back into downward facing dog. Take a deep breath and release. Lift your hips up towards the sky. Open your chest towards the mat. And then we'll do that again, but a little bit quicker this time, just in one continuous flow. So it's like a wave cycle, crashing onto the shore and then pulling back into the ocean and again crashing onto the shore. So let's begin by rounding our backs up by our shoulders, pushing on our toes so that our body comes forward over our wrists. Drop your hips down, flip your feet so that the tops are touching the mat. Lift your chin up, and then tuck your toes and lift your hips back into the air and push back into downward facing dog. Breathing deeply. And we'll do a few more. Pushing on the tips of your toes, rounding your shoulders over your hands, flipping your feet, chin up, and then pushing through your hips back into downward facing dog. Again, pushing through your toes, rounding your shoulders, coming over your wrists, flipping your feet, dropping your hips, and pulling your chin up. And when you're ready, pushing your hips back into downward facing dog. Take a few deep breaths here, adjusting as you need to. When you're ready, come up onto your tippy toes, bend your knees, and take a big step up towards the front of your mat, next to your hands, and forward fold. So just let the weight of your head and shoulders fall towards the ground. You can relax your hands and arms. And then slowly roll upward one vertebrae at a time. Until you are standing in mountain pose with your chin parallel to the floor. Pull your shoulder blades back towards each other and down your spine. Push your hips forward slightly and engage your thighs so that they're pulling apart. With your hands open and facing forward, take a few deep breaths. On your next inhalation, bring your hands together at heart center and exhale. Inhale, hands upward with a slight arch in your back, maybe pushing your hips forward. And on your next exhale, forward fold all the way down. And this time, use your abs to pull yourself closer to your thighs and straighten your legs as much as you can comfortably so that you feel a stretch in the backs of your legs. On your next inhalation, straighten your legs and bring your shoulders forward, opening your chest towards the front of the mat, hands touching the floor in front of you. And on your next exhalation, forward fold and release, pulling yourself inward towards your thighs with your abs. Take a few deep breaths here. Now this time, enjoying the sensation of stretching the backs of your legs. On your next inhalation, create a flat back and pull your shoulders forward, opening your chest towards the front of your mat. Firmly plant your hands on the ground and step back into a plank pose, keeping your shoulders over your wrists and your hips in line with as if you're making a diagonal line with your shoulders, hips, and toes. Drop slowly with your elbows tucked perpendicular to the ground until you come to the ground. Now, flipping your feet so the tops of your feet are touching your mat, and tucking your elbows so that they're underneath your shoulders. And you have a really nice perpendicular shape right here with your arms. Palms flat on the ground. Push your hips into the ground. Use your thighs to create a strong base for your body. And now push your chest forward. Bring your shoulder blades back together and down your spine. And we'll stay here for a few breaths. And when you're ready, push yourself up and back into child's pose. You can spread your knees as wide as is comfortable for you, dropping your hips back to your heels and putting your forehead on the mat, reaching forward and resting here for a few deep breaths. Now lift your hips up and come forward onto your hands and knees, and when you're ready, push back into downward facing dog. Checking in with those micro adjustments that we did earlier, pushing your hips up towards the ceiling and your chest towards the mat. When you're ready, lift your right heel into the sky. If you can keep your legs straight. Bend your knee and stack your hips so that your right hip is on top of your left hip, and your heel, if you could, you would be reaching all the way to your lower back. This is a great hip opener for your right hip. You can push your hips forward slightly, checking in with your weight distribution, making sure that your weight is evenly distributed on all three touch points on the ground. And when you're ready, release back into downward facing dog. Take a few deep breaths. You can wag your tail a little bit, bring some movement into this posture. Coming back into a still posture. Let's do the same on the left side. Lift your left heel up into the sky and then bend your knee and reach your left heel back towards your lower back, stacking your left hip on top of your right. Checking in with your hands and your foot that's still in contact with the ground. Make sure that weight is distributed evenly as you push your hips forward. And release. Coming back into downward facing dog. Take a few deep breaths. And come to the tips of your toes. Bend your knees and step forward to the front of the mat for a forward fold. Letting your hands relax towards the ground and your head hang. Releasing any tension in your lower back. Slowly, one vertebrae at a time, roll yourself up into standing. Mountain pose. Bring your shoulder blades back and down your spine. Face your palms forward. Push your hips forward and take a deep breath. Inhale and exhale. Deep breaths. bring your hands together at heart center. On your next inhalation, bring your hands upward and reach back slightly, pushing your hips forward for a slight back bend, and then forward fold. Just hanging out here, stretching your back. On your next inhalation, straighten your back and pull your chest forward. And then exhale, place your hands down and step back into plank. Getting a straight, strong line between your shoulders, hips, and ankles. Bending your elbows gently lower towards the ground and push back upward for a yogi push-up into upward dog without having your thighs touch the ground. Extend your arms so that they're straight. Push back into downward facing dog. Push your hips up towards the ceiling and open your chest towards your mat. Inhale and lift your right leg up high into the sky. Then pull your knee up towards your forehead and step your right foot between your hands on the mat. Level your hips out and push the back of your left knee up towards the ceiling. Pull your chest towards the front of the mat and lift your chest. Straighten your back and maintain your right knee over your right ankle. Take a deep breath. Feel the stretch here. Deep breath. Going deeper into it if you can. When you're ready, drop your left knee and untuck your left foot. Push your hips forward slightly and go deeper into this hip stretch as much as is comfortable for you. Take a deep, slow breath. Releasing any tension or tight muscles on your exhalation. You can push up onto your knee, putting your hands on your knee, lifting your spine more straight, sinking deeper into the stretch, making sure that both of your hips are facing forward equally. Now drop your hips back towards your left foot and straighten your right leg. And fold over your right leg, checking on your hips to make sure they're in line. Straighten out your back by pulling your chest forward to the front of your mat. Placing your hands on either side of your foot, you can use them to balance as you pull your chest forward, feeling the deep stretch in your hamstring on the back of your right leg. Take deep breaths here. With each breath, opening the chest more, lengthening the spine. And rock forward, bringing your right knee over your right ankle. Pushing your hips forward, coming onto your knee with your hands. Drop your hips lower, keeping them level with each other, both facing forward. And when you're ready, drop your hips back over your left foot again. This time, slouching over your right leg. Feeling the stretch along your spine as you let gravity pull your body towards your right leg. You can leave your foot relaxed, flexed, pointed, whatever feels good for you. Deep breaths. And again, coming forward, pushing your hips forward, lifting your chest up, placing your hands on your knee. And when you're ready, place both hands on either side of your right foot and step back into downward facing dog. Pedal out and find your posture, lifting your tailbone to the ceiling. opening your chest towards the mat. Deep breaths. When you're ready, lift your left leg up into the air, bend your knee, bring it towards your forehead, and then step your left foot between your hands on the front of the mat. Pull your chest forward and pull your right knee, the back of your right knee, up towards the ceiling. Make sure your hips are level. Lift your chin so that you're looking directly forward and take a few deep breaths here. Breathing. Lifting your chest. And when you're ready, drop your right knee and push further into the stretch with your hips. You can come up onto your knee with your hands, straighten your back, open your chest by bringing your shoulder blades back towards each other and down your spine. Take a deep breath. Try not to arch your back. Keep it strong. You're pushing forward with your hips and lifting with your chest. You're not trying to do a back bend. Bring your hips back over to your back leg. Straighten your front leg. Put your hands on either side of your left foot and start working your chest forward toward the front of the mat, straightening your spine as much as you can. Feeling the deep stretch in the back of your left leg. Pull your chest forward and take deep breaths. Bending your left leg, bring your knee over to your left ankle. Push your hips forward and come up onto your knee with your hands. Pull your shoulder blades back and down your spine. Keep your hips level and pointing forward. Take some deep breaths here. And pulling your hips back over your right foot, straightening your left leg, round your back and just fall over your left leg, balancing yourself with your hands on either side of your foot. Feel the stretch in the back. Take deep breaths here and relax into it. Bend your left knee and come forward again into a low lunge and push your hips forward, opening your chest forward. Place your hands on either side of your left foot and take your left foot back into downward facing dog. Deep breaths. Drop your knees to the floor. Spread your knees to the width of the mat. Drop your hips back over your heels. Put your forehead on your mat. Come into child's pose. Breathe deeply. Release any tension. Coming up onto a seated position with our legs facing in front of us. Straighten your legs and push your knees into the ground. Flex your feet the stretch behind your legs, pushing into the ground with the backs of your knees. Sit up tall, pulling your shoulder blades back towards each other and down your spine. Lift your chest. Take a deep breath in, filling your entire chest cavity. And on the exhale, start to walk your hands forward as far as you can reach. Wherever you end up is fine. We're just going to round our backs and fold over. Feel the stretch both in the backs of your legs and in your spine. Gently swaying side to side, seeing what feels good, what comes up for you. Taking slow, deep breaths as you do this. With each exhalation, dip a little bit further. Breathe. Go deep into this stretch. And release. Coming onto our backs. Firmly plant the sole of your left foot into the ground. And you can drop your hands by your side. And take your right leg and cross it over your left leg. You can tuck your right foot behind your left ankle if that's available to you, but just crossing it will be okay. Slowly drop your right knee towards the left side until it hits the ground and extend your arms into a T. Look over your right shoulder and sink into this twist, taking deep breaths to create space where there might be tension and releasing further into this posture when you exhale. Breathe. Using your breath to create space in this twist. And release, slowly bringing your knees back to center, uncrossing your legs. Place both of your feet firmly on the ground and sway your knees back and forth gently. Release the twist. Coming back to center, firmly plant your right foot on the ground and cross your left foot over, tucking your foot behind your ankle if you did that on the other side, and drop your knees over to your right side, turning your gaze over to the left side. Take a deep breath, filling your chest cavity, and release, sinking deeper into the twist. With every inhalation, scan your body for any tightness or where you might be holding on to some tension. And on the exhalations, release that tension. Breathe deep. And bring your knees back to center. Firmly plant your feet on the ground, uncrossed legs, and gently sway your knees side to side, releasing your lower back from that twist. And now bring your knees into your chest and wrap your arms around your legs, bringing them closer into you. You might have to scrunch up a little bit and bring your forehead closer to your knees to get your arms around them. And once you have that, lower back onto the ground. The goal is to have a flat back in this posture, but that may not be available to you, so that's okay. You can instead hold on to your knees with your hands. Or you can sort of open your knees wider and have a loose clasp between your hands. You can find whatever position is comfortable for you to have a flat back against the ground. When you find that, take a deep breath, releasing tension and coming into the posture. And release, bringing your legs all the way forward and flat on the ground, letting them fall out. You can release your arms to the ground in whatever way is comfortable for you. Take a deep breath in, filling your lungs completely, expanding your chest until it is completely full, and then exhale, pushing everything out. When you think you don't have any more, exhale just a little bit more. Breathe deeply here for our final resting pose, Shavasana. When you're ready, begin to wiggle your toes and your hands, moving your wrists and your ankles, and slowly come onto your side in the fetal position and rest here for a little bit in this halfway spot between Shavasana and sitting up. When you're ready, push with your top arm until you come up into a seated position in whatever is comfortable for you. I like to bring my bottom foot close towards my tailbone and tuck my top foot in the little nook in my leg. The idea is to have a straight spine, so whatever makes you comfortable so that you can have a straight spine, that works. Close your eyes if that's comfortable for you. Put your hands on your knees. Take a deep breath, filling your lungs. And releasing. Thank you so much for joining me for this class, this very slow flow. I hope you enjoyed it and you're feeling nice and stretched. Let me know what you would like to see next and I'll put it together for you.